This video will walk you through calculating break-even units using a mathematical equation as well as the contribution margin technique. I've made a problem available to you and it's summarized right up in here on Anheuser-Busch. So you hopefully have gone through and tried to calculate this prior to watching the video. Assuming you've done that, I'm going to show you what I've done to figure out this problem. I've constructed all of this in Excel here so that you can kind of see how my mind logically works through break even. So we were given, and this is just a quick summary of what was given in the problem in terms of sales and all the costs. And the first step when we're dealing with cost volume profit analysis is to take the costs that are typically given to us from a financial accounting perspective and put into different buckets and according to accounting rules, and not necessarily whether they vary or they're fixed in nature. So our first job is to take these costs and deconstruct them, move them over to the portion that's variable and the portion that's fixed. So the problem told us that of the cost of goods sold, 75% of whatever we had was variable, and that means that the remaining portion, 25%, has to be fixed. So the total fixed cost, the total cost of goods sold, I've split up, matches what we had over here. So now we're also told that the marketing and distribution costs, 40% of them are variable. So I'll take 40% of that. That means 60% of them are fixed. So total marketing and distribution, just to make sure I've accounted for all of them, I have. So my total variable costs, I'm now going to add up what those are, what are my total fixed costs, and just to do a little reconciliation, make sure I've accounted for all the costs. This matches here, so I'm good to go. So now I have the same data over here broken up to more usable cost volume profit data. So the mathematical equation lists the formula right here, and we need to know the sales. Break even is where our total sales equal our total cost. So the formula says we need our total sales at break even. Now remember, this is given to us, this is total sales if we hit some certain income from operations, but we want break even. So we don't take sales from here and just plug it on down. We have to figure out what's the sales per unit. So this is why I've made this little reconciliation over here. So on a per unit basis, the problem told us that they sold 125 million barrels of beer. This was their cost, or their revenue for those 125 million barrels. So if I divide that by 125, they sold on average for 125.73 and some odd cents. So this is also in millions. This is another important part of this problem, is all these numbers are listed in millions. So this is actually 15 billion. And so that math works out. If it's 125 million, I can divide the 125 by here to get the sales price per unit. I'm going to do the same thing for the variable costs. If my variable costs are 8 billion 756 million, they're $70.054 cents. So my contribution margin per unit, I'll need this later, is the difference between the two, $55.68. So my sales are going to be 125.7368x. I don't know how many I need to sell to break even. My variable costs are 70.054x per unit. I don't know how many I'm going to sell to break even. The fixed costs are simply going to be the 4240, but this is in millions, so I'm actually going to make it millions. I'm going to multiply it by a million, so it's actually 4 billion. My net income will be 0 at break even. The break even units in sales, the formula then would look something like this. My sales are going to be the 125.7368x equals my variable costs come next, 70.054x plus fixed costs of the 4,240,750,000, and my net income is 0. So there's the formula. If you solve for x, let's see if I can do this quickly here. Break even is 76,159,065.28 barrels of beer. In order to convert that into a sales dollar amount to break even, I take the number of units times the sales price per unit that I've calculated up here. That tells me, and let's just format this so we can see, what $9 billion to break even. That's just to break even for the current year. So that was using the mathematical equation. Let's look down here now at the contribution margin technique. This will give you the same answer, hopefully, as the other one. The fixed costs are the same as up here. My contribution margin per unit I calculated over here. And the formula to get the break-even units is right here. Take the fixed cost, divide by the contribution margin per unit. And look at that. It happens to exactly match. Let's just verify that. If we subtract each other, they're exactly the same. So that walks you through break-even units using the contribution margin technique as well as the mathematical equation for the current year for this organization.